to you, I will prevent World War III, and we're a lot closer than anyone knows. We are a lot closer to World War III than anyone knows, and that will be a war like no other. That will be obliteration. This isn't army tanks going back and forth shooting at each other. This is weaponry like nobody can even imagine. You don't even want to talk about it. On my first day back in the White House, I will terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration and begin the largest deportation operation in American history. And I will also use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries, and that will be done immediately. They want to go home. They want to go home. Horrible what they've done to children. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the heads of our children. And I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or mask mandate. No mandates. I will immediately close the Federal Department of Education, and we will move everything back to the states where they can individualize education and do it with love for our children. You know, we spend a fortune on education. We spend more than any other country in the world by far. It's not even close. And we're last. Out of 40, we're 38, 37, sometimes even 40. We're last. So we spend sometimes 3 times. You have Denmark, you have Sweden, you have Norway, you have China. It's at the very top of the list a lot. And we're like last, and yet we spend 2 and 3 times more money per pupil than they do. We're going to end that. South Carolina will run their own. Do you like that idea, Henry? You'll do a great job. If you have the right people, you're going to do a great job. It can't be worse than what's happening right now. So many people in Washington, building after building. We need maybe 2 or 3 people just to make sure they are teaching English in our schools. Say, is everybody teaching English? Okay, you qualify. I think South Carolina, as an example, in particular, a place like South Carolina would do an unbelievable job with education, and they do it with love. I will keep men out of women's sports. I've been talking about this for so long. And I will sign a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. Can you imagine? Can you imagine, Yvette? Can you imagine even saying that? Having to even say, child, think of it. I was thinking the other night, I was making a speech. I said, I will not allow child mutilation. Child mutilation, the word is such a horrible word. And we won't allow it in our country. And can you imagine saying that 10 years ago? People would say, what the hell is he talking about? And actually today it's a big, they mutilize. I mean, they want to mutilate your children. These people are sick. Just as I did for 4 years, I will fully uphold the Second Amendment. They gained no traction. They're gaining traction now. They're playing with your bullets, your ammunition. They're gaining a lot of traction right now. But, you know, keeping men, by the way, just to go back, keeping men out of women's sports, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And you have to look at some of these records. A great one is weightlifting, where for years and years, 18 years, this record stood, and you had this great female athlete. She was going to break the record. Her parents were there. They were all so happy. They're so proud. And they put like 1/4 of an ounce on each end, right? And she went up and up and up. Oh, and she didn't make it. Then a guy comes on stage. He just became, I guess, female, right? Is that a correct statement? He just became female. He lifted that sucker. Ding, ding. I think broke the record by like 140 pounds. 1/8 of an ounce on each side. He broke the record by 140. It's not going to be broken anytime soon. Maybe in 1,000,000 years from now, if we're still around, because we have stupid people here that will allow everything to be obliterated. Don't kid yourselves. And I will secure our elections, because our elections, if you don't have great, free, fair elections, and you don't have borders, you don't have a country. And right now, we don't have much of a country. We're laughed at all over the world. Our goal will be 1 day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. It's very simple. 1 day voting, paper ballots, voter ID. But until then, we have to make sure we win. We have to literally swamp them. We have to swamp them. We have to get so many votes out that they can't cheat, because they will cheat, and they will do things that Republicans don't do. They are very, very bad people in so many different ways. This is what we must do in conclusion to restore our country to greatness. The USA is a mess. Our economy is crashing. Inflation is totally out of control. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea have formed together as a menacing and just a horrible, menacing and destructive coalition. Our currency is crashing and will no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat in 200 years. Our currency will no longer be the world standard. Look at what's happening. All these countries are going over to the yuan. That's China. What they're doing to us, I'll get that stopped in one day. I'll say, you get that stopped, or we're not doing any trading with you. There'll be no more trading. They'll be, oh, we would love to stop that, or we would like to stop that. But nobody talks to them properly. It won't happen with me, not even a little chance. Just like Russia would have never invaded Ukraine, as I said, and China would not even thought about Taiwan. And you know what? He just said it. They didn't. They didn't. There was never a thought. And I'll tell you what, that was the apple of President Putin's eye. I spoke to him very well. I had a great relationship with him. It's good to have a good relationship. You know, the fake news, look at all of them back there. The fake news said he gets along with Putin. Getting along is okay. But, you know, in many respects, he told me this. He said, there's never been anybody that treated us. I ended Nord Stream 2. Nobody knew what Nord Stream 2, they never heard. I ended the single biggest, most important economic development in the history of Russia. I ended it. It was over. When Biden came in 1 week, he approved it. Is that correct, Marjorie? 1 week, he approved it. I said, I can't believe it. And they built it 1 week. And then they said, Trump is very soft on Russia. I was the one that put the big sanctions on. And actually, Putin once told me, he said, you know, if you're really good to me, like they say, I'd hate like hell to see you if you were bad to me, because there's never been anybody that does. But we did get along, and he would never have done that. And he wouldn't have done it for a second reason. Oil would not have hit $110 a barrel. So he wouldn't have been able to afford prosecuting the war. He wouldn't have been able to do it because oil went up to $100 and $115 and even more than that for a period of time. And he actually made a fortune, one of the few people ever to make a fortune on fighting a war. Wars you lose in lives and you lose money. He lost lives, but he made a lot of money. And if that would have been stable, if that would have been at $40, $50, $60 a barrel, he wouldn't have been able to even do it. And he never had the soldiers up there. He was never even thinking about doing it with me. He wouldn't have done it because I told him not to. I said, you have no idea what's going to happen to you if you do it. But he wouldn't have done it because of the oil prices, because oil was so low. That's why $1.87 a gallon. And it was even lower than that for a period of time. We would have left Afghanistan with dignity and strength and pride instead of our greatest embarrassment in history. I think Afghanistan was the greatest embarrassment in history. And I actually think that's why Putin went in. When he saw the incompetent, stupid people, the way they left, they took the military out first. I think Putin said, these people are really stupid. That's a different country than I've been dealing with for the last 4 years. Now this is our time to go in. I really believe that's a third reason. If you took the 5 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as crooked Joe Biden and the Biden administration have done. You wouldn't have done. There's nobody. You could take your 5 worst presidents, add them up. I may have to change it to 10 because 5 is no longer appropriate because you can't even get close. I think I'll go to 10 from now on. Would people remember that, please? We're a failing nation. We're a nation in decline. And now these radical left lunatics want to interfere with our elections by using law enforcement. It's totally corrupt, and we can't let it happen. That's why you must show up to vote.